Hello everyone, this is the factoring review that you will have a quiz over all the different types of factoring on Thursday or Friday of this week, depending on if you are an A or a B day student. Remember, this is for Thursday or Friday. Alright, so the first question that we come to, remember the directions say to factor completely, and it is a trinomial, and they want you to factor it. So if this was me, I would pause the video and see if I can work this problem out by myself and then check my solution with the next slide. So go ahead and pause the video now, and then when you're finished working the problem, go ahead and restart the video. Alright, so here's your solution. X squared plus 2x minus 35. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give me negative 35 and add to give me 2. 1 and 35 give me 35 when I multiply to, so does 5 and 7. Well, the only one that's going to work in both blanks is the 5 and 7. And it only works when the 7 is positive and the 5 is negative. So factoring this trinomial, I would get x plus 7, x minus 5. Alright, here's the next problem. Still a trinomial, but looks a little different. I have 2x squared plus 16x plus 24. There is a number in front of the x squared besides 1. So this is going to be worked just a little bit different. Go ahead and pause the video and work it on your own. Here's the solution. First thing I did was I pulled the 2 out of each. I saw that 2, 16, and 24 are all even numbers, so I'm going to divide 2 by each one of those. End up with a trinomial of x squared plus 8x plus 12. Now I have a trinomial with a 1 in front of x squared, so I can work it with two numbers that multiply to give me 12 and add to give me 8. The numbers over here on the right hand side are the ones that multiply to give me 12. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. The only one that works in both blanks is the 2 and 6. So you bring down your 2 you factored out in the beginning, and you have an x plus 6 and an x plus 2. Third question, 5x squared minus 18x minus 8. Alright, pause the video, see if you can work it out yourself. Alright, this is a problem. There's several ways you can work it, but I'm going to work it the AC method. So the AC method is what we did in class, and what we did, we learned that if I can't factor anything out of the 5, the 18, and the 8, like I did the 2 last problem, then one way I could solve this problem is by doing the AC method. So I'm going to take the number that's in the A spot, the number in front of x squared, and I'm going to actually bring it to the back and multiply those numbers together. End up with x squared minus 18x minus 40. Now I have a trinomial with a 1 in front of x squared, so I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give me negative 40 and add to give me negative 18. Those numbers happen to be 2 and 20. So x plus 2, x minus 20. However, math is about balancing, so because I multiplied by 5 in the beginning, I'm going to have to divide by 5 in the end. So I end up with x plus 2 over 5 and x minus 20 over 5. Well, 20 over 5 can simplify to 4, but 2 over 5 does not simplify. So if you're left with a fraction after you've simplified, you need to pull the denominator back in front, just like you took the 5 and put it in the back. Now if you have a denominator, a bottom of a fraction, you need to pull it back in front. So my final answer is 5x plus 2 and x minus 4. Next question, 4x squared minus 16. Go ahead and pause. Alright, 4x squared minus 16. There's only two terms here. This is called a binomial. And so one thing you always check for binomials is the difference or sum of two cubes or the difference of two squares. So this one happens to be the difference, because it's a subtraction problem, of two squares. And I checked it over here. The square root of 4 is 2, the square root of 16 is 4. So therefore the number in the A spot is going to be 2x, because that is what 4x squared squared. And the 16 is, square root of 16 is 4, so B is 4. So therefore it's just a matter of solving the problem. So I get 2x plus 4 and 2x minus 4. But because the directions said to factor completely, you must remember I can still pull a 2 out of the first and a 2 out of the second parentheses. So when I pull the 2 out, I end up with 2 times x plus 2 and 2 times x minus 2. And because I have a constant in front of both sets of parentheses, I can pull those together and multiply them, because all this is multiplication, and my final answer would be 4 times x plus 2 times x minus 2. You could have factored it differently, but this way works. If you do it the other way, as long as you follow the rules, you should end up with this answer down here. X to the third plus 27. Okay, go ahead and pause the video. X to the third plus 27. This is also a binomial, but it is a adding problem, so it's a sum of two cubes. Alright, so what I would need to do is realize that x cubed is x that has been cubed, and 27 is 3 that has been cubed, and you'll have your calculators. And then it's just a matter of plugging into the formula. So you need to go back and watch the last video about factoring part 1 video, if you do not remember this formula. So it's a plus b, that's where I got x plus 3 for, then it's a squared minus a times b plus b squared. So that's where I got all these numbers from. Okay. All right, last one. This is 4 terms, so if you go ahead and pause it and see if you can work it out yourself. Okay, with 4 terms, one way you could do is factor by grouping. But before I started that, I realized that 8, 6, 16, and 12 are all even numbers. So I'm going to pull a 2 out of everything to make my numbers smaller. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, 6 divided by 2 is 3, 16 divided by 2 is 8, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. Once I get greatest common factor taken out, now I can look and try to group the first 2 and group the second 2 terms. Now I want to pull out greatest common factor of just these first 2 terms. So I realized that 4x to the third and 3x squared, they have an x squared in common. So I take an x squared out and I'm left with 4x minus 3. Then I move to the second one. I can't take an x out of these because 8 has an x but 6 does not. But I see that 8 and 6 are both even numbers, so I'm going to pull a 2 out of all those. 8 divided by 2 is 4, 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now my insides match. So my answer is going to be, bring the 2 down from when I factored the 2 out at the very beginning, put the outsides together, which is x squared plus 2, and put the insides together, which is 4x minus 3. Okay, it's a little bit long video, but it was a lot of me describing how to go through those problems. Be ready for a quiz on Thursday or Friday of this week.